Yeah.
You're giving me nothing. You're giving me nothing.
Um,
We're supposed to be bantering here.
we're supposed to be
The,
bantering. Yeah.
the audience is supposed to feel a connection to both of us because we're sharing personal details about our lives and our thoughts on the city. And that's what we're doing here, Josh. We're sharing and we're forming a bond with the audience. I don't feel like nobody's forming a bond with you.
Uh, so for one of my other weird nerd things, me being a professional parliamentarian, I'll be going to their national convention in
Oh,
September.
geez. Oh, geez. I can see why you didn't want to share this part of your life.
We're rolling. We're rolling.
Calling out tap people. This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
Do you have any ideas for what we're going to talk about here today? What do you want to talk about?
I think this was your idea.
I know it was my idea. I'm picking your brain before we start so that I know where your mind is at.
Yeah, I mean, I think you wanted to talk about the conventions. There's been 5 conventions so far, and there's 7 more to come now that Ward 5 has been canceled. So
Okay, so you have no ideas, just basic.
I have no
basic,
ideas.
Basic stuff.
No ideas.
Okay, well, I'm ready to get started now. This is the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards, and my guest is Josh Martin.
Hello.
We're here to talk about Minneapolis election season. Caucuses are over. Convention delegates have been selected. Conventions are happening. Josh and I were both at conventions over the prior weekend, which will be 2 weekends ago by the time you listen to this episode. You were in Ward 3. I was in Ward 12. Did you have any reactions to that? Obviously, Michael Rainville was endorsed. He is DFL endorsed now. But tell us about your experience at the Ward 3 convention.
So the convention process at Ward 3 went pretty smoothly from what I could see. There were not any major fights over credentials or rules or any of that sort of thing. So they just kind of went through the normal process and did all that and had candidate speeches and Q&A. And then after one ballot, Michael Rainville was endorsed.
Very quick. And Ward 3 was redistricted from the last time, which means it's in the case of Ward 3 is a little more of a conservative electorate than we had back when Steve Fletcher was the council member.
I would say so. Some of it shrunk even more to kind of the riverfront core and left some parts further out in downtown or further out in northeast, which potentially could have had a more progressive electorate.
The Mill City people, they love Michael Rainville. So I was in Ward 12. It was nice to be at a convention in person, a city convention in person, a ward convention. I enjoyed that aspect. It felt like maybe things are getting back to normal. Like the experience was terrible, objectively speaking, but I was reminiscing a little bit like, politics used to be like this. We used to do these city and ward conventions in person, and that's nice. And no one was assaulted. There wasn't a lot of bad feelings any more than you would typically expect from a convention. There was lots of, irritating, complaining into the microphone, stuff like that, but it was nothing out of the ordinary. So I had a pleasant experience. I saw a lot of people and had a lot of nice conversations. It was good. It's nice. If you have your ward convention coming up, go to it and enjoy it. It'll be nice, I promise. And if it's on Zoom, I think that's worse. I don't like the Zoom conventions. How do you feel about Zoom conventions, Josh?
The Zoom conventions can be challenging. There's a lot of technical issues to deal with. There's also, you don't necessarily get the same sense of community that you do from being together with people in person. But I do understand that there's some potential positives to Zoom conventions as well. It gives people a little more freedom in what they can do at the convention, and it's maybe a little easier to sell someone on logging into a Zoom meeting rather than showing up in person to a convention for minimum of 3 hours. Probably could easily be longer than that.
Although Zoom conventions go a long time too. I feel like there's a little bit of like the internet culture has a tendency to like let people hide behind you're online, you're not in someone's presence, so you can get away with being more irritating than you would be to their face, maybe. Have you noticed a little bit of that? Like I could do more road blocking on a Zoom convention. I feel less compunction about raising ridiculous procedural barriers to getting on with our day on a Zoom convention as opposed to in person, where there's a whole room full of people that will boo me if I try to drag this out further. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I think that's certainly part of it. There's also just some of the technical aspects of how voting and debate and other challenges that happen over Zoom, just those things, even if everyone is playing nice, can make conventions take longer. And this is through some of my experience, not just with DFL conventions, but virtual conventions in general. They tend to go slower than an in-person convention.
So to move on with my Ward 12 reactions, Oreen Chowdhury was endorsed on the first ballot, so it was over relatively quickly, not as quickly as Ward 3. And very strong campaign, very well organized, even to a greater degree than I expected. I didn't have a low opinion of that campaign, but like lots of elected officials, unions, organizations endorsing her. I think she looks like she's going to win. I would expect a very diverse support too. I don't know if I've been to a Ward 12 convention. It seems like, yeah, this is a progressive ward. I know it's a small number of people who attend these things, but it's like moderates and conservatives can show up too. Lots of older white people supporting her. So it's not like this is just like young far left weirdos. She has a diverse coalition. That was my reaction. I thought Jerome would be stronger. He came in with the senior caucus endorsement. I talked to him on the podcast and I enjoyed that. But he didn't have much support. Luther Ranheim is staying in the race. It seems like it's going to be two people down to the end. I am disregarding Nancy Ford. I don't think she's going to put together a very strong campaign. I talked to Luther Ranheim too on the podcast. He seems fine. He has the support of the mayor's campaign people. They were present at the convention helping him run his convention. So it's the usual Minneapolis split in terms of who the factions are. If you like the moderate to conservative wing of the city council, you're going with Luther. If you want a more progressive outcome, you're going with Oreen. I think that is my Ward 12 rundown, Josh. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't think I have any questions for you about the Ward 12 convention.
Okay.
I think you covered it pretty well.
Josh has all the knowledge he requires. He does not. I have nothing to offer him, is what you're saying. Okay. We can talk about Ward 5. Ward 5 has been canceled. I can't figure out why, because Jeremiah Ellison is obviously, he feels like he's the aggrieved party because Victor Martinez has all these delegate signups coming from the same IP. And I can see why Jeremiah Ellison feels aggrieved. I have not heard an answer that satisfies my curiosity about why Victor Martinez would also agree to canceling the Ward 5 convention. Unless it's something like if, I don't know, does he think worse things will come out exposing his questionable campaign practices? Have you heard anything, Josh? Why is the Ward 5 convention canceled?
I haven't heard anything. I have no more insight than you do.
Congratulations, Ward 5. You don't have to go to a convention. Victor Martinez is obviously the deeply conservative Republican who is pretending to be a DFLer running for city council in Ward 5, if people weren't paying attention. Should we run through the wards, Josh? or just focus on the big ones. Have we missed any below 5? One seems not any action in 1. I don't know. I haven't heard anything in 2. I was expecting someone to challenge Robin Wansley in Ward 2. I was expecting that. That didn't happen.
Correct.
Ward 3, we covered that. Ward 4 is LaTrisha Vetaw. She has a Republican opponent, right?
There's 2 Republican opponents that I know of, and then she does have one DFL challenger, Marvina Haynes.
Okay, so there is a DFL challenger. And when is the Ward 4 convention?
That is this Sunday, May 7th.
I only noted the one. See, Josh and I are teaming up to be at all the conventions, so tune in to our various Twitter accounts for the action live on Saturdays. Is it any of them on Sundays?
The Ward 4 one is on Sunday, and then 7 and 11 are on a Sunday as well.
I'm going to be in Ward 10. That's my home ward. Josh, you said you were coming to that one too because you don't trust me to cover it adequately.
Well, no, I was going to go to Ward 5 for that one because obviously you would be in 10, but 5 is canceled now, so I'm available to see the glory that is Ward 10.
And we're going to be in person. I appreciate that. So I've been having trouble getting a hold of Nasri Warsame, who is the person who's running against Aisha Chogtai in Ward 10. Couldn't get any response to emails. I did see him on the street randomly on Hennepin Avenue a couple of nights ago. And I guess I'm probably the only person in the city who could recognize him if you just saw him on the street. I recognize him. He was with a guy with a cell phone on a stick, probably recording a campaign video, I guess, unless he's also a social media star. There were like half a dozen Metro Transit police cars outside the Uptown Diner. So that was a good backdrop if he wanted to like fearmonger on crime.
Yeah.
You know, lots of
Could have a Ted Jude style campaign video.
Right. Yes. Very ominous Batman style. Only I can keep you safe kind of thing. I don't know if that's the campaign he'll be running because he is hard to reach. He did finally get a website to stay up. I have heard that lots of his delegates are concentrated in one precinct, which won't be to his advantage, though he does have a lot of delegates, more than you'd think from someone who showed up just like the day of caucus to announce that he was running.
That's my understanding as well, is that many of the people who signed up for him were from the same precinct, so he kind of maxed out what he could get from that precinct.
And then there's Ward 8, Josh. That's your home ward.
That is my home ward.
That's virtual on Zoom?
It is virtual, yes.
How's it looking in Ward 8?
So in Ward 8, and I should mention that I do have some skin in that game as a Ward 8 resident, and also I'm fairly involved in the Soren Stevenson campaign. Soren's campaign feels, I would say, pretty good about the convention. We're certainly not taking anything for granted, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
So you're taking off your pundit hat and you're putting on your campaign surrogate hat for this one.
Well, I'm not official in here in any official capacity from the campaign.
Right. Nothing. Josh says something outrageous. If that happens, don't let it reflect on Soren. How has your experience been of Andrea Jenkins as your council member?
I haven't had a lot of interactions with Andrea personally. I certainly know others in the ward who have had meetings with her and have been frustrated. I think is probably the word I would describe to their interactions.
What are the big issues in Ward 8 that people would be frustrated with Andrea Jenkins about?
So I know there are certainly a lot of people in Ward 8 who care about the Roof Depot situation, and that's something that she's not been one of the strongest council members on that. I should have been more prepared for this.
You live in Ward 8, Josh. You don't know what the issues affecting your life are?
Yep.
Pundit extraordinaire.
I think certainly there's a desire for a more transformative system of public safety in Ward 8. Rent stabilization is an issue that was pretty heavily supported in Ward 8 in the Charter Amendment and going forward from there. And she's been iffy in her support of rent stabilization, I think is a good way to describe it. So there we go. There's a few issues.
Yeah. Well, so the Roof Depot thing is one of the reasons I want to talk to her, because I think her position, and I might get canceled for this, Josh. I think her positions are actually like defensible, and I would like to like tease those out and have a conversation about it. And so Andrea Jenkins or a campaign manager, if you're listening, we could have a good conversation about these things that I think deserve some attention. I think it would be a good and meaningful conversation. I also want to talk to Emily Koski in Ward 11. I find in my old age, Josh, that I want to have more conversations with people who I may not agree with on everything, but I think we can talk. I don't know if it's my old age or having lived in Minneapolis over the last couple of years with all the anger and bad feelings and wanting to maybe not feel so bad about everything and everyone at all the time. Is this touching your heart, Josh? Do you feel these feelings that I feel?
Yeah, I think we in our city, there's different factions that disagree on some issues, but I think there's also a lot of issues we can agree on and find some common ground on, hopefully. So we need to try to have those conversations and find the things we can work together on.
Is there a candidate in Ward 11?
Besides Koski, yeah, Rebecca Donnelly is challenging Emily Koski.
And when is the Ward 11 convention?
The Ward 11 convention is Sunday, May 21st. That's also the date of the Ward 7 convention, so we'll have to split those.
And I think I'm going to be at that one, right, Josh?
You volunteered for 7, yes.
Okay. So come check me out at the Ward 11 convention.
No, I believe you said 7, but we can switch them if you want.
Oh, I don't necessarily want to switch them.
Okay.
Which one? Are either of those in person?
Nope, they're both virtual.
Oh, so it doesn't really matter. I hate virtual. I really do. There's nothing to be learned at a virtual convention. There's an in-person convention has personality. A virtual convention is just, it feels all process, but we've already covered this.
Yeah, so the next 3 conventions are in person, the 2 this weekend, and then Ward 10 on the 13th, and then all of the conventions after that are virtual.
Did we cover everything to do with caucuses and conventions and campaign stuff, do you think?
I think we skipped 6.
Oh, of course I would skip 6. Do we have anything to say about 6? Ward 6 has also been plagued by accusations of irregularity. I don't know if they've resolved those. Casey Muggan talked to the Reformer about Tiger Worku's delegates that are all using, what's the email provider again?
Proton Mail.
Proton Mail, which is a highly secure email product, very niche. Not many people use it. It would be weird to have so many the caucus signups using the same email provider. Also, a reporter went to the address of someone. He's got audio clips of people saying, "No, I'm a Republican. I did not agree to this. Don't want anything to do with it." So, have we heard anything about how they've resolved those issues? Are they trying to resolve those issues in Ward 6?
I haven't heard much. I assume there will be some credentials challenges, but I haven't heard much about how they have been resolved or if there's any plans to resolve them other than through the standard credentials challenge process.
And so did I agree to go to Ward 6?
Yeah, we need you for 6 because I will. That's the same day as 8, so I will naturally be in 8.
I'm sorry for asking you all these questions, Josh. I don't know where I will be when. Is it going to be in person? Is it going to be in person?
No, Ward 6 is virtual.
Oh, so I won't get punched. I always expect to get punched at a Ward. That's one of my dreams, is to get punched or trampled at a Ward 6 convention. But it's not going to happen this year because it's virtual.
Would be a more interesting story. And I think we didn't really talk about Oh, so I guess six we should say. So there's four candidates there: Casey Muggan, Tiger Worku, who are the two we were just talking
And the
about.
incumbent.
The incumbent Jamal Osman, who has some reporting on some potential ethical challenges related to the Feeding Our Future scandal. Um, and then finally, Dirzak Behe, who also ran in 2021.
So that one will be interesting.
So Ward 7, we didn't really talk about either. Like
It's true.
you mentioned, you would be there, and that was all we said about it.
We've got Scott Graham and Katie Cashman and this guy named Mark Globus. I think.
And Kenneth Foxworth.
Who is Kenneth Foxworth?
He is also running.
Is he the Republican?
No,
Oh.
the only Republicans right now are in Ward 4. Kenneth Foxworth. He has a website.
Okay, we don't need to bother with Kenneth Foxworth. He doesn't seem like a serious candidate.
He certainly seems to have been running the lowest profile campaign of the four candidates in Ward 7.
And so Scott Graham is the like Lisa Goodman. I want to be Lisa Goodman. I want to have all her policies and take over her supporters and just keep going in Ward 7. Katie Cashman's the more progressive alternative. And Mark Globus is just a guy who likes to run for office every couple of months. He ran for mayor 2 years ago, right?
Yes.
Didn't have any support, right?
No significant support, no.
So we don't have to worry about Mark Globus. He's got a great name, though. Okay, here we go. You ready for the audio, Josh?
I'm ready.
As I mentioned, on their Fridays, people go somewhere else sometimes. But Thursdays, they linger a little longer. They hang out with friends and coworkers and family. And some of the best memories that I have of my entire life. Thursdays in Minneapolis. The whole 5 days a week, sweatpants on Mondays. Some people want to go up to their cabin on Fridays. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Everyone comes back to work on these days. Thursday. Crime is downtown. On Thursday, the rebound downtown. On Thursday, no place in the world better to be on a Thursday than downtown Minneapolis. The music is playing, the sun is shining. Thursdays in Minneapolis.
Fun, looking forward to
Thursday. Thriving Thursdays. Thirsty Thursdays. Thursday.
Okay, it kind of ends abruptly there, Josh, but you get the idea. It's not quite finished. I don't know if that is even the kernel of a comedic music video, but I thought I would debut it here. It's Jacob Frey announcing the state of the city. I guess is strong. Crime is downtown rebound. Everybody's coming to work on Thursday. He wants people to work in the office on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And you can go to your cabin on Fridays and wear your sweatpants on Monday. What do we think about the state of the city, Josh? Do you have any personal thoughts here?
I think there may be more things we can measure the state of the city in beyond just crime stats and people working downtown. So beyond my own thoughts on the state of the city, I think that would be my first reaction, is that maybe we should take a more holistic look at the city. It is accurate that there are certainly some things in the city that are going well. Crime stats do seem to be down. How much of that is due to just seasonal trends and how much of that is due to long-term changes, we don't really know yet. I mean, there is also just the weather is much nicer. Not that our local government has any control over that, but that does help the enjoyment of the city. I don't know that it's accurate that a lot of people are going back to work downtown, and maybe that's exactly why the mayor's message was needed, to try to plead businesses to bring people back to work more. I still work from home for my day job a lot of the time. I know a lot of other people who do as well. So,
do you prefer it? Do you like it, Josh?
Yes, I prefer it that way.
Is it because you're scared to be downtown?
No, convenient to work from home. It's nice to work from home. I also like a lot of people on my team for my day job are in Colorado. So if I go into the office, I still sit on uh, Teams calls all day. I just do that from the office instead of at home. It doesn't seem productive to go into the office for that. If there's a reason to go into the office, there's a particular meeting, particular gathering, people are going to be there. Happy to do that, but I don't see the point in going in just to go in.
Right. Yeah, I am happy to see crime is down. Although there's one stat that they keep using, guns recovered. And I looked at the chart for guns recovered going back like 10 years. And every year it goes up. It seems like almost every year they're setting a record for guns recovered. And you know what that has to do with? We just have ever growing numbers of guns in this country. And so, of course, if you work in law enforcement, you're going to come across guns just more often than you have in the past. It's not necessarily that you're doing better work. Another thing is staffing is still, I don't know if we've pulled out of the valley when it comes to police staffing. I think it's as low as ever or close to it. And so, like, how much is this attributable to good police work? I know there's a multi-jurisdictional cooperation with like state, local, county, federal. And so how much of this is simply that like the federal law enforcement is solving MPD's crimes for them? And they came out with this like 45 people were indicted on organized crime charges who are allegedly involved with Minneapolis gangs, things like murder and robbery and drug charges. So something like, was it 20 attempted murders, seven actual murders? It's like a significant amount of the violence that's been happening in the city attributed to a relatively small number of people. And so I don't know that, like on TV, they talk about how it's Operation Endeavor, working miracles. I don't know how much of it is simply like the federal government coming in and solving MPD's unsolved crimes. And it makes me wonder, like, what good is MPD? What were they doing back when they had 800 cops? Why weren't they solving these crimes? I don't know that we have like great conversations about what is responsible for this difference. I don't know how much of it we can say, well, Cedric Alexander has come in with his new plan and like, whipped MPD into shape and now crime has gone down. Maybe it's just that the Fed stepped in and like picked up the slack for investigating these crimes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different potential explanations, and we'll really need to look at it over a longer period to reach any conclusions. And even then, I don't know how much we can point to any particular factor. But certainly at this point, I think it's difficult to say that any particular factor contributed to the decrease in crime. I did find those police department staffing numbers. They just had those at a presentation at Public Health and Safety on Wednesday. It says they're currently at 583 sworn personnel.
How many are on leave?
10 personnel leaves, 14, and this also apparently includes 14 in the academy. So after you subtract that out, it's 559 active sworn. And then it also talks about temporary and permanent light duty and FMLA. So total active full duty is 518.
I saw that same chart, and they've broken it out into more categories than I have ever seen them break out that number into. And it makes me wonder, how am I supposed to compare this to the past? Because you haven't broken it out by this many categories before. I sent an email to MPD trying to get this information. I don't think I'll get a reply, but I'm curious how this compares to the past, because they broke it out into so many categories I can't make an apples to apples comparison.
Sure.
Okay. Another thing we've probably talked about it a lot, but maybe should still talk about is how much like the pandemic like ripped our society apart, and crime exploded everywhere. And we often just like act as though Minneapolis had this conversation about our police department that got twisted into making the police department go away forever. And that was somehow the reason crime exploded. Old news, but something I think about often. What's going on at the Charter Commission lately, Josh?
Nothing. They haven't met in a while. The last full Charter Commission meeting was in February. The government structure work group last met in March. So longer than yeah, it's been a while.
Are they going to start meeting again?
I assume so. I assume they'll start meeting again at some point. They do specify in their rules. They reduce the number of meetings. It used to be the rules required a meeting every month. They reduced that, so now they meet at least 4 times a year. They've met once so far this year, so there should be at least 3 more at some point. And I assume they'll want the government structure work group to meet at some point to continue its work.
Yeah, I was talking about the government structure work group.
Oh, yeah.
What are they working on? What's the potential there?
Yeah, so what they've been discussing is charter amendments to further the new government structure implementation. This might also include other things, but the main things they've been talking about so far are one, just the simple thing of like some of these new positions and departments have been created, like listing them in the charter, and that's the more straightforward one. And then the one that potentially will have more discussion and differing opinions on is what position should be subject to council confirmation. So right now, all of the charter departments, so the departments listed in the charter require council those department heads require council confirmation. And then the new top level executive officer positions, the city operations officer and the community safety commissioner, require council confirmation. So there's some discussion over where to go from there. And they've kind of discussed 4 different options. One, of course, is just continue with status quo. One option would be to actually expand the number of positions so that all department heads would require council confirmation. One option, which would be the opposite extreme of expanding it, would be to reduce the number of positions that are confirmed by the council to just the executive level officers, no department heads. So with that proposal, the only positions that would require council confirmation would be the community safety commissioner, the city operations officer, and the city attorney. And then one final option would be kind of a middle ground where maybe, certainly the executive level officers and then some department heads would require council confirmation, but not quite as many as require council confirmation now.
So I'm not a fan of giving the mayor more power. That's where I come down on it. And so I don't know, maybe I'm open to like the maximal version of come to the council for all of your department heads. Maybe I'm a fan of that. I don't know. But I'm definitely not a fan of handing over more power to the mayor. One thing I hope is a prominent feature of the discussion at the Charter Commission's government structure work group is how badly they broke the legislative branch by pushing this Chamber of Commerce funded strong mayor thing. Like, I got the sense when I was at a work group meeting, they don't understand that it's, at least on the council side, maybe on the executive branch side, everyone is just overjoyed at how things are working. But it really put a crimp into our legislative branch. It's just not working. And we could have used a like phase-in period potentially. But like, they did not do a good job. They should pause and think about what they've done and try to do better, I think. I don't like the discussion at that meeting I went to. I forget who it was, Rubenstein. She's like, we should ask council members how this is working out. Has it made their jobs easier? Has it made their jobs better? And it's like, they are oblivious to the effects of what they've done, I think. So I hope some council members maybe are a part of that discussion. And maybe the Charter Commission is totally ignorant of the fallout of what they've done. Do you have any response to that, Josh?
I can't speak to what the charter commissioners do or don't know about the effects of their amendment on the council, but they do seem to be sincere in their desire to meet with council. I know there was recently a motion that the charter commission government structure, the city council's committee of the whole, like government structure subcommittee, which is all the same people as committee of the whole, but they focus more on government structure stuff. They adopted a motion to have a joint meeting with the Charter Commission's government structure work group. The city clerk informed the work group of that at one of their recent meetings, and they seemed open to the idea. So I assume that'll happen eventually.
Yeah, because we heard this, like, there's no plan when it came to the Amendment 2 and the public safety thing. There's no plan. All it was a permission structure to make some changes. You don't have to meet the staffing minimum, and clearly we can't because we haven't. Thank God Don Samuels dropped his lawsuit and said, it's fine, you can go below the minimum because I trust in the mayor. There was no plan for this government structure thing. There was no time to have a plan because it was implemented within 30 days. I'm just rehashing my old grievances.
And speaking of this legislative department issue, there will be a presentation by the city clerk at Committee of the Whole on Tuesday regarding their plans for continued implementation of and development of the legislative department. And that presentation file is in LIMS right now.
You know what I wish would happen, and this is based on total ignorance of how government works, but just grab 20 people from the executive branch. Say, Mayor Frey, give us 20 people. You can decide who they are, but those full-time employees, they now work under the city council, and they're going to be our staff now. We'll repurpose them to suiting our needs. I don't know why that can't move faster as far as staffing up the legislative branch. If the executive branch was this broken, I mean, they're creating new job titles all the time. They're changing how the executive branch works to suit what the mayor wants. And the broken part of our government is the city council. We don't have a legislative branch that can function. I'm kind of frustrated. What else is going on?
There's the Community Commission on Police Oversight. That's new.
Not much to talk about, though, with that, right? They appointed some people.
They have not met quite yet. Yeah.
Speaking of another thing that was intentionally broken, was the old police community oversight commission, whatever it was called before. I forget. Do you remember?
Police Conduct Oversight Commission.
Yeah, they just stopped appointing people to it, and it could never reach quorum. And so for a year or more, it just didn't exist. You're not allowed to do that. Was it in charter? It was an ordinance. And so you can't just effectively kill a commission because you have plans to replace it later by not appointing people to it. Well, sometimes it feels like a very conservative mindset. We will break government. We'll come in and we break it because we don't agree with it. We're just going to break government. I feel that way sometimes. Do you feel that way, Josh?
Yeah, it seems that way. Certainly there are factions that would prefer that government or generally, or at least city government, do less in the way of legislation and regulation. So I guess one way to achieve that would be to limit the ability of the legislative branch to do its job, and then you get less legislation.
What else is going on?
There's the zoning stuff, which passed the planning commission. That'll have to go.
Oh yeah, how did I forget that? I'm bad at setting the agenda for my own podcast. I forget the zoning thing, the corner store thing. I even wrote a thing on my on wedgelive.com about that. I was very pleased with that. I thought that was great. I was not expecting it either. It was unanimous at the Planning Commission, including Council Member Emily Koski in Ward 11 voted for it. So corner stores would be legalized across large parts of the city. It'd be great. Not necessarily large buildings, but at least one residential unit. If you got a house on a corner, you could have. I forget what the square footage limits were. They're very small, so don't worry about like a Kmart moving in or anything. Not that we have Kmarts anymore.
It was like 1,500 square feet, I think. So very small.
So you want to open a little coffee shop, a little store? Want to have an office where you apply your trade? You can do it, potentially, if the council goes along with it. I have no idea if the council's going to go along with it. I was so surprised to see Emily Koski vote for it. And I took that as a good sign. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. But it was unanimous at Planning Commission. Great.
Yes.
What was the other element of that? Oh, the grocery store thing. So they expanded the square footage maximum to 20,000 feet, which it had been limited to like 10 and 15,000 in some parts of the city. And it's rare that you will find a grocery store as small as 10,000 square feet. So in order to encourage more grocery stores in the city, they raised that limit to 20,000. That was also a good change. So good things are coming out of the Planning Commission. I'm hungry for good news, and I was pleased to see those things. Thanks for remembering that. Anything else happening, Josh?
At Pogo on Monday, there's going to be a proposed legislative directive for review of hiring practices for public safety workers.
Is that related to that cop from Virginia who
I expect it is related, yeah.
Smashed someone in the face? I don't know how that happened. I saw that the chief had signed off on that, our current chief, and he wanted an investigation to see how it had been recommended to him that this person be hired. So maybe we'll get some news out of that.
Roof Depot certainly at some point will come back
at the Planning Commission next week, right?
It's at the Planning Commission next week, although I don't know that that's the most important meeting related to Roof Depot. The main action's happening at the state level right now.
Right.
And then when that gets resolved, then the city will have to figure it out depending on what happens there.
Here's some personal news, Josh. I bought a bike.
Yes, I heard about this. Yep.
How did you hear about it? Did I tweet that? Yeah, I did.
Maybe.
Tweet that. I did. Yeah, that's how you heard about it. You're not spying on me, Josh, are you? No, you just read my tweets.
Not spying on you. Just saw it on Twitter.
I don't want to see you lurking outside my apartment. I'm not parking it on the street because I know Josh will steal it. Because Nice Ride ended, and they had the yearly membership thing. So it's like, okay, I can pay $90 or whatever it was at the end a year, and I have a bike whenever I need in the warmer months or the warmish months to ride. And now I'm expected to pay $5 for a 10-minute ride. So it's like a minimum of $10 round trip. I'm just not going to do it. I don't know if that makes me cheap or what, but I'm not going to do it. And so I purchased a bike, which will give me the freedom to visit more places, Josh. I'm looking forward to the freedom I'm going to have now that I own my own bike. I can go places. And I want to put out a call to everyone who's listening to invite me on your bike rides. If you're having bike events, invite me on my bike rides. I'm not gonna be that person who's like, can we swing by a Nice Ride station to continue this ride? Total freedom. I can bike wherever I want. I can leave the boundaries of Minneapolis now. I'm not restricted at all. Transportation freedom. I also bought a kayak. Josh, did you hear I bought a kayak?
I did not hear about the kayak.
I tweeted that too. An inflatable boat, I think is what I referred to it as. I bought a boat. That's kind of fun. Although I think I'm too large for it. I think I am too large for this inflatable kayak. It's a 2-person kayak, and I think I'm weighing it down as the second person in this kayak. I found that the underside fin kind of drags on the bottom. You have to go out quite a ways in the Lake of the Isles to get into this kayak because my weight on the boat is pushing this fin, and you're just dragging. You're dragging for maybe 6 feet as you try to struggle out into open water. It's fun. So I'm having new experiences in Minneapolis after 10 years here.
It's good.
I'm looking forward to it. Are you having any new experiences? Are you opening any new chapters in your life?
I haven't bought any bikes or kayaks. No, nothing comes to mind as
Really?
anything especially new.
I mean, you mentioned the weather is changing. This is a wonderful time to live in
That's true.
Minneapolis. So what are you going to
Um,
do? You just going to do the
I'll,
same old stuff you do every year, or you got plans? Do you have plans?
I'll certainly be going on more walks. Probably go for walks around Lake Harriet since that's near where I live. I will be visiting Winona, Minnesota in the next few weeks. My some of my family lives down there. My half brother is graduating from high school, so visiting for that. And I went to college in Winona, so haven't been there in a while, so it'll be good to see it again.
Any like festivals? Any I don't know. You going to any Minneapolis events? I'm looking forward to Open Streets, for example. I'm a little
Open
irritated
streets will be good. Yep.
they moved Lindale Open Streets to October. Like it's a June tradition that when it's warm outside in June, we get to do open streets. Not October. We don't do Lindale Open Streets in October. And so I'm kind of irritated at that we don't get to enjoy that earlier in the summer. You have any thoughts? Anything you're going to? No?
Open streets will be good. Yeah. Um, yeah.
You're giving me nothing. You're giving me nothing.
Um,
We're supposed to be bantering here.
we're supposed to be bantering. Yeah.
The audience is
Uh,
supposed to feel a connection to both of us because we're sharing personal details about our lives and our thoughts on the city. And that's what we're doing here, Josh. We're sharing and we're forming a bond with the audience. I don't feel like nobody's forming a bond with you.
uh, so for one of my other weird nerd things, me being a professional parliamentarian, I'll be going to their national convention in
Oh,
September.
geez. Oh, geez. I can see why you didn't want to share this part of your life.
So
Parliamentarian.
I'll be going to Atlanta for that. Yeah.
Oh, man. Are you looking forward to it?
Um, it's nice to see people. I've met some of them at other conventions. Um, and it's nice to see different cities when going to them, and a lot of their educational presentations, if you're someone who likes that sort of thing, are very interesting. The business convention itself for a meeting of parliamentarians is um, interesting. So
Have I asked you how you got into being a parliamentarian, a professional parliamentarian before? Have I asked this?
maybe, but I can certainly tell the story again. I got involved in parliamentary procedure through student government in college. And when I went to my first meeting, I had no idea what was going on. So I studied up on parliamentary procedure afterwards, and quickly became much more knowledgeable than others there, and kind of became the de facto parliamentarian pretty quickly. And after graduation, I heard about the National Association of Parliamentarians and continued doing some study with it. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Is that considered a red flag by like the FBI in terms of like personality traits associated with dangerously psychotic people? If they are
Uh,
into being a parliamentarian? Or is that
I
not a
don't
red
know.
flag?
I haven't asked any FBI agents that. I don't know if they would tell me if it was.
Let's just say I'm troubled by the fact that you are a professional parliamentarian. Find it troubling. We forgot to talk about rent control.
Oh yeah,
I was a
yeah, that's
little,
pretty important.
I
Yeah,
was a little
that's going
irritated
on.
by the how much time has been wasted on the work group they formed, and then to just like come up with a staff study on the volunteer work group's work to say no, none of this is workable. Like, why didn't we just start with staff? Come back and tell us what you would recommend and not just rejecting what the volunteers came up with. Seems entirely designed to run out the clock so we don't have this conversation before the election. I just feel like a lot of time was wasted that could have been spent working out something. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think some of the progressive council members seem to agree with you, which is why they voted not to do the work group and instead to follow the normal legislative process. But they didn't have the votes
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, that was you tweeted that at me afterwards, and I had not. I didn't recall that. It had been so much time had passed. It was like last April they put this into motion instead of like hiring policy experts to like follow their direction to develop a policy. They're like, let's turn it over to the civilians and have them tell us what they think we should do, and then we could say, well, no, that doesn't work. Oops, all the time ran out, and we can't do anything. That's not a great way to legislate.
I think they also thought they were going to get a less aggressive plan recommended by the rent stabilization work
Yeah.
group. I think the establishment forces were a little surprised when the 3% no exceptions policy got approved by the work group.
Right. Yeah. Because so I'm correct that CPED got some appointments to this work group, right? It was council members deciding who should be on it. Also, like CPED got the opportunity to appoint some people to it too, right?
Yes, there was guidance for CPED. Like there
Yeah.
were certain categories of persons, and they picked the particular person. But yeah,
And so I'm thinking executive branch has a hand in this, council majority has a hand in this. Obviously, they're going to put together a group of people who will produce something they will like. You can't say it was rigged in favor of the rent control advocates. It wasn't. And then they ended up getting this, what I think is, so asking my opinion about what they came up with, I think it is too much. I think it needs an exemption for new construction. I just think that it needs that. It probably needs some other tweaks too. But like, I was surprised that it came out the way it did. I was assuming you appoint a work group, you know what the result's going to be. Like you make sure the people who are on this work group are going to give you the results you want. But they
sure.
didn't. So I don't know. I guess it's on hold. I don't know if it doesn't seem like there's going to be a push to get it on the ballot this year, but I don't know. That's not based on anything but my gut.
I don't think it's going to get on the ballot this year because it seems likely Frey is going to veto any rent stabilization measure, and I don't really see a path to 9 votes on the council. 7 votes maybe, but not 9.
Right. And with 7, at least you like make it clear this is a mayor who, and you put council members on the line to like show us what your priorities are, show us what you support in an election year. That's kind of important. So it wouldn't be totally unworthwhile an endeavor to like make people vote on it.
Yeah, and it is an election year, so I could certainly see that being the strategy to do that, to force council members and the mayor to go on record.
Okay, I think we're at the end. Josh, do you feel like we got enough recommendations for you? You recommended attending the parliamentarian conference. That was your
I don't know if I would recommend that for most people.
Anything else you want to recommend to people? That's how we usually end the show.
Yeah, just go on walks. That was my other
Okay.
thing. The weather's nice again.
Did you listen to my walk episode with Jonathan Stalls?
I did,
author?
yes. Yep.
Do you think people are getting into walking more? Do you think people understand? Why do you walk, Josh? Do you feel like there are mental health and creativity benefits to doing it? Because I have found that. I feel pretty strongly that is a real thing. It has helped me just with like ideas and creativity much better when you go on a walk. You also feel better. This is a real thing.
I think there are creativity benefits. I definitely think there are mental health benefits. I have had, especially during the pandemic, definitely started doing it as a stress reliever, which was easier to do since I was working from home. So I could just go walk when I needed to. Yeah, I find it's very good for that. Very relaxing.
This episode is sponsored by walking, the mental and physical health benefits of walking. Okay. Thank you, Josh Martin, for joining me and for coming up with ideas for what we would talk about in real time, because I had forgotten all of them. This has been the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Thank you for listening.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.